Wow, things really can change quickly during an election campaign. It was just over a week ago that I was talking about how, when it comes to the Canadian federal election, yes, all the numbers and inertia and conversation suggest that Justin Trudeau is most likely going to be reelected. And the main question people were talking about is, are the numbers showing it's going to be a minority or is it going to be a majority government for him? Because when you're in a minority situation and then you go to the polls earlier than you need to, it's probably because you've run the numbers, done the calculations, and you feel like, this is good timing for me. If I go to the polls now, maybe I'll get a majority, or I'll get a strong minority, or whatever they're looking for. That it favors them, the timing and so forth. Well, how a week has changed. I mean, back then I was saying, look, things can change on a dime. 2-3 weeks later, things are completely different. So yes, it favors Justin Trudeau, but who knows? Aaron O'Toole could turn things around, and he could be the guy who, well, he could win it. Things could favor him for several weeks in the polls, and he could ultimately prevail. Well, things have already switched around. The numbers are changing. The momentum is behind Aaron O'Toole, and Justin Trudeau, well, he's kind of losing his luster. There's been a few examples of that in just the first week of the campaign. A couple smaller gaffes, some rather bizarre stuff. Justin Trudeau saying at one campaign event that, he doesn't bother with monetary policy. He doesn't think about that sort of stuff. And a lot of people going, what? What is that? An economist speaking out going, why are you saying that? That's a bizarre statement. And the Bank of Canada governor, former Bank of Canada governor, David Dodge, he took to the airwaves to say that Justin Trudeau should walk that back. That is not something that you want to be saying. There's another gaffe on economics-related issues where Trudeau went on about how we need a she-covery to deal with the she-cession, based on the argument that the pandemic has financially hit women more than it has hit men and so forth. And however you want to talk about that particular issue, economic challenges that are specific to women, it's kind of like that line, is that something serious, or is that like the people kind gaffe all over again? And a lot of women on social media were like, please, man, don't, this is icky. Don't say this sort of stuff. And it's funny how things have changed, because remember back in 2015, all Trudeau had to do was shrug. This was back when he appointed his first cabinet with the Governor General. He just had to shrug and say, because it's 2015, when they asked, why do you have 50% representation of women in cabinet? And of course, he got applause from all over the world. I guess he thinks it's just, so easy to say, I'm a feminist, and then that somehow just automatically carries you with 50% of the electorate, and you just sort of own their vote, so you just have to say those platitudes, even cheesy ones like the she-covery, she-cession, and it works for you. Well, it looks like it doesn't work anymore. So a lot of women not happy with that. And then the big ticket one, of course, which is the situation in Afghanistan. I mean, this pretty much happened on the day he went to the Governor General to say, let's have an election, to dissolve Parliament, to drop the writ, and so forth. And, this is something where we've heard from Canadian military sources, some of my colleagues at Post Media hearing from military commanders saying, we had plans to airlift people out of the airport, out of Kabul, people who had been identified in need of our help, that very day. And yet the Liberals and all the sort of political strategists around them, they were too busy dealing with the election to actually put time into dealing with the situation in Afghanistan. And now we have a humanitarian crisis unfolding that Canada could have gotten ahead of. This is extremely serious. And a lot of people saying, like, come on, you got to do more even right now. And it continues to dog him, as it should, because it's an incredibly serious situation on the ground there. And why weren't we more prepared, as so many voices in our country and around the world are saying about, yes, the US and other countries, but Canada's position as well. So there you go, 1 week. And Justin Trudeau says, here I am, I'm going to get my majority, I'm going to govern for the next 10 years or what have you. And then 1 week just kind of turns it all around. Is it going to stay like this? Could things come back into Justin Trudeau's favor? Of course, because the whole thing is anything can happen. But right now, it's not looking good for him. Certainly not as good as he had hoped.